If you can combine the will to prepare to win and the will to win, I call it being worthy of winning.
No one man should have all that power. Sebastian Jimenez and one of the greatest coaches of all time, Coach K.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. When I got the opportunity to do the event, I said, I'm going to do it. One thing stood out. I've never had a moderated talk moderated by a washed-up comedian, all right?
So here we are, Coach.
So I figured I got to be better than him, right?
Oh, my God.
He said it was okay to pick on him, so.
First thing he told me, we had a call before this, and he goes, man, you must have been a bad comedian if you're sitting down here with a tech company. You must have been bad.
How did it feel when you told a joke and no one laughed?
Oh my, it was amazing. I told you the story. The worst time I bombed, my dad was in the crowd, and I was in college. And I was
He's here, right?
He's here. My dad's somewhere in here, and he was booing. You're right there. And my dad was like, boo, this shit sucks. Go back to school.
Good advice. Good advice.
The coach agrees. The coach agrees. So, Coach, I mean, you are one of the best leaders ever in history, not just in sports. A lot of people don't know this. You teach business at Duke now, and you teach leadership. And you're not just one of the best coaches, one of the best leaders, I think. And you've won 5 NCAA championships, over 1,200 career wins, Olympic medals. But for you, it started all at West Point. So can you talk about what it was that they taught you at West Point that you took with you and you got all the way?
Yeah, I was really lucky. I'm 79 years old now, and I'm still kicking. What the hell? My wife and I have been married 56 years, and so we actually got married on graduation day at West Point. But I love leadership, and all of you are leaders. You can never stop learning about leadership. It's the best profession in the world. And when I was 18, I started my leadership study. I went to the best leadership school in the world, the United States Military Academy. When I was there, the first 6 weeks, you go through a thing called beast barracks, where they kind of beat the hell out of you, and they change your limits, okay? They change your limits. Whether you want them changed or not, they're going to change them. And so the very first thing as a leader I learned, our mantra for every academy graduate, our mantra is, failure is not our destination. It's not. You get knocked down, you get back up. You figure it out, and you may not be able to figure it out alone, so then you start forming a team to figure it out. So failure is not our destination. You're always thinking, we're gonna win. We're gonna win. Even in the darkest times, we are going to win. There's no alternative. The second thing is when you got stopped by an upperclassman. You had 3 answers: yes, sir, no, sir, and no excuse, sir. And so the no excuse thing is something that you should do in every team. Like, you don't have time for excuses. So when something happens, you're a solution-oriented person where failure is not your destination. A third very important thing, we had an honor code. They still do. You don't lie, cheat, or steal. I lied a little bit about the comedy, but that's called social lying. And if we were both cadets, I know hard to...
hypothetical.
Use your imagination.
Hypothetical, yeah.
So we're in the same class, and we don't know each other, but after class, you would say something to me. And I would believe you right away. And I would say something, and you would believe me. And so I know AI and everything is important, but the biggest speed that you can develop on a team is the speed to trust. How quickly will you trust one another? He says something to me, I got it. I say something to him, he's got it. And so for all of my teams and every leadership position I had, to me, that was the key speed to develop. Fourth, very important thing, I played for one of the great coaches and a very tough coach, Bob Knight. And Sebastian, he would say, like I'm going to ask the audience, how many of you do not want to win? Okay, there's not an idiot in the audience. None of you have well, he's on stage. Once I get going,
Hey, keep going, man.
I can't let up. So he said, everybody wants to win, and we should want to win, okay? So the will to win should come easy. He said, the most important will is the will to prepare to win. You know, not everybody wants to put in the work necessary to win. And so for my entire career, I tried to I'm an anal preparer. I prepare like crazy. And even for this thing, we had a Zoom, we do a scouting report, get ready and whatever. That's easy, that's fun. But if you can combine the will to prepare to win and the will to win, I call it being worthy of winning. And so every time one of my teams went on the court, I wanted us to be worthy of winning. And so I learned a heck of a lot of other things, but everything I just said applies to all of you. It's common sense. It really is. Oh yeah, and you know how much it costs? Nothing. Nothing. Well, it costs the most important thing you can give another person, time. Time and honesty. You know, imagine if you did that with your team every day, the environment and the culture that you would build. Yeah, it's amazing. That's why I've loved doing it. And that doesn't mean we didn't get our butts beat. We didn't win every game or every championship, but we won a hell of a lot of them. And we did that because doing the fundamental things that you do.
How did you do that in your teams at Duke? Because you had new classes of people coming every year. You coached the U.S. national team for basketball, and you only met like once a year in the summers as you prepared. What tactics did you use to actually increase that speed to trust?
Yeah, you know what we did. You'll do better with anything you own. So how do you get a group where they own it? You know, with our U.S. national team, the first team we had in 2008, the Redeem team, you had LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo, all these guys, they're all studs. They're all super talented. And they all have big egos, okay? And so the very first meeting that I had with them, whenever I have a meeting with a team, I usually have a meeting with one or two people before to get the lay of the land, maybe have a friend in the room, you know, just in case. And so the meeting was at night. I met with 4 guys individually. Jason Kidd, who's the coach of the Dallas Mavericks right now, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James. And I told them, I said, we're going to have a meeting tonight. And all of them individually said, we're going to talk about offense and defense, or what your company does. Or what. I said, no, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how we're going to live together. I said, what do you mean? I said, we're going to come up with standards, not rules. Like, when I went to West Point, there's a regulation book. You know, like, you can never own a rule. You obey it or you disobey it. Okay? But a standard is the way you do things all the time, and you require the other people with you to do it all the time. In other words, it produces an environment where you're doing good things and you're holding each other accountable. If the leader is the only person holding someone accountable, that's not going to work. A leader could be a 10-story building, in charge of 10-story building. If the leader is just on the 10th floor, they're not going to know what the other floors. But their team is on all the floors. And if you can have something that brings everyone together. So my 2 standards, my whole career, have been when we look each other in the eye, when we talk to one another. There's not all this BS, all right? And we always tell each other the truth in the moment, right away. So look each other in the eye, tell each other the truth. That's that speed to trust. And the trust, then, with having standards, you start developing values. Value-based organizations stand the test of time. So that night, I told them, first of all, I said, I don't believe in the expression, leave your egos at the door. I think that's stupid. Like, you're really good. One of the reasons you're good is because you got a good ego. Why do you leave it at the door? Then you're not going to be as good. I said, so bring your egos in. And by the way, LeBron, Kobe, they were going to bring their damn egos in no matter what. So you just, but what I told them, I said, put all your egos under a USA ego umbrella, where we have one collective ego with all of these big egos. I said, we'll rule the world. We'll beat everybody if we do that. And then, how do you get that ownership where they're saying, like, 12 guys, that's how many guys are on the team. They're all studs. They're all, so you don't know if they're going to contribute. So I said, look each other in the eye, tell each other the truth. This is where you hope those individual meetings help. They might say something. I said, does anyone else have anything? So, wow. Will anyone raise their hand, right? And Jason Kidd raises his hand, and I said, oh, God, thank you. Not out loud. Don't do it out loud. You lose your street cred right away. Talking to yourself quiet, is important as a leader. And Jason Kidd raised his hand. He says, Coach, we should be on time. We should respect one another and always be on time. So I asked all the guys, I said, what do you guys think? And they said, yeah, we should do that. And I said, well, speaking of respect, the U.S. has lost 4 of the last 5 major competitions because we were arrogant and not prepared. So one of my standards would be, we never have a bad practice. And a lot of people, they think, well, it's the coach's practice. I said, no, it's not my practice. It's our practice. In the 11 years, it was an honor for me to coach the U.S. team for 11 years. We never had a guy wait. We never had a bad practice. Crazy, right? Because they owned it. And other things were good faces, show enthusiasm. Dwayne Wade, who's like a jet, I'm not a jet, he would say, Coach, when I go forward, I want to make sure everybody has my back. Because if I do that, I'll go like this. If I'm not sure, I'm going to half step. We're not going to do it by half stepping. So everybody care, have each other's back, be there for a teammate, collective responsibility. We're going to win and lose together. Show enthusiasm. We can handle every situation. These are fundamental things. Again, they don't cost anything, but whatever your standards are, I have standards meetings with each one of my teams, then you own it. You own it. And Sebastian, one other thing with that group, I told them, you're going to hear and see things. You don't own it unless you feel it. Like, why are you doing what you do? You should celebrate your why. If you find your why, my buddies in inner city Chicago said, you've never worked a day in your life. And I said, you're damn right. I understood my why. I've loved what I've done. With your teams, if you can get common ground with standards, and if you can celebrate your why, like some of your accomplishments and that, you're going to become a closer unit. It's like a second family. And that's what I tried to do for my entire staff, where everyone's important. You come to work, you're in our family right now, but it's our family, even though I'm the so-called leader of that family.
So when you talk about the difference between standards and rules, what it sounds like the core difference is that you have a meeting to make sure that everybody can actually discuss these standards and they themselves agree out of their own free will.
We had them printed up. One of the meetings we had them all. I said, you guys have signed a lot of lucrative contracts. This is a contract. So we had them all sign it. I still have those where all of them signed it. You gave your word, man. You gave your word. You signed your name to it. let's go. Our team won 77 straight games over those 5 championships that we had. And all those guys are like brothers because they all shared a common experience, a great common experience.
So then you get them to agree out of their own free will that they own it. It's not a rule that's imposed. They own it because it's theirs. And then you can get this thing that you were alluding to here, which is that you get this collective responsibility and collective accountability. There's a lot of leaders in the room that, they saw themselves, myself included, scaling their companies to like where you were, like you, I have a little family, and my sphere of influence starts, getting a little thinner because the company is so big now. And how do you actually go from the leaders at the center of accountability, where you have to go personally and make sure that you're holding people accountable?
Yeah, you got to be really careful about that because obviously you're in it to grow, right? And keep getting bigger. I made a big mistake in my leadership, even though it was good. During the late 80s and early 90s, we went to 7 Final Fours in 9 years and won 2 national championships. And like our company was off the charts. Everyone was asking you for stuff. And I was really a micromanager where everything, it was like a bicycle wheel and every spoke had to go through me. And so people would do things for me, but I kind of solved it for them before and told them what to do. I got completely burned out. It was really a mental health situation where I lost all feeling. I resigned and they didn't accept, and it took me 4 months to get it back, okay? My wife, everyone was great, but I changed my leadership style to what I would suggest for you and for all of you to do is empowerment. Like, you have that opportunity. You tell me how you would solve it. Okay, go ahead and do it. And then what happens on those other 9 floors, then you have ownership, empowerment, and what I would do as you get bigger is every once in a while you have your leadership team where you talk about what the hell's going on all those floors and your suggestions and say, hey, I think we should add 1 more standard or whatever. And instead of giving orders, I'm military, so I'm big on intel. How do you get intel? And you get intel by empowering. And not only that, but a lot of they keep you current. How are you as a leader, as you continue to grow, stay current with everything? Like you want young, you want different, and you want people to give you who they are, on a day-to-day basis. And you grow as a leader. Instead of, no, the leader doesn't know everything. The leader doesn't have to be the smartest person in the room, except for the fact that he or she will listen to the smart people in the room. And then getting that buy-in, it's a beautiful thing. And I became such a better leader and had so much more success. And I trained other leaders. I started only hiring my former players as assistant coaches. And they all knew that they were really good. They know Duke, me, and whatever. And when we would hire them, I said, I'm not hiring you to be an assistant. I'm hiring you to be a head coach. And even though it's going to say assistant coach, I want you thinking as a head coach all the time. So I want everyone around, in my leadership team thinking that they are that leader and giving them and listening. A big thing too for me, I started listening more, and I should have been used to listening because I have 3 daughters and and my wife. I've lived with 4 beautiful women, and I've learned the women's wisdom, sometimes reluctantly, and they would tell me, Dad, listen, for crying out loud. I said, all right, and then I started listening and I got better. In other words, instead of I got better, we got better. Again, that plural pronoun thing, that's pretty cool.
So one of the things, and you talk about, coaching leaders, one of the things that you did really well is that you actually coached your top people the hardest.
Yeah.
Which is very counterintuitive to a lot of sales leaders. They tend to spend most of their time coaching their bottom performers, their middle performers, and they kind of leave their top performers alone. You did the opposite. You're like, I'm going to coach my top players the hardest.
Right.
Why did you do that?
Well, they have the most potential, all I know is if you really want to win big, your best players have to be really big. And they want to be coached. They want to get better. And not only that, but they're looked up to by everyone else. And if you're coaching them hard, that doesn't mean yelling at them all the time, but making them show up every day, getting their ideas, putting them in a position sometimes to say things to the team. If you're doing that with the best player, the other guys say, whoa, I better keep my butt in gear if he's going to do that. And again, that doesn't mean yelling at him or whatever. The other thing, when you're fortunate to have someone or a few people who have really a lot of talent, if you put a lid on them, that's kind of dumb. That doesn't mean you don't have structure, but for a great player, they can have structure, but they can't have a ceiling. They have to grow. They have to grow. And I'm a really good coach. A lot of people say I'm a great coach. I'm a great coach because I had great players. And I coached them, and then they performed at levels at times that I couldn't teach them to do. Creating that environment for them, they loved it. With the US teams, that was a lot of talent together, okay? Talent makes talent better. When we started that team, we had lost in 2006, and we had a young team, and I wanted to add some older players. Two of the players were Jason Kidd and Kobe Bryant. And I flew up to Akron, Ohio to meet with LeBron James, who was, from the young guys, he's the stud. They're all studs, but he was a little bit more of a stud. And I told him what I was going to do. I said, is that going to be okay with you? Because at this time, Kobe Bryant's actually better than you. And LeBron, who's great, I love him. He said, Coach, I'm a really good passer. Jason Kidd's the best passer in the league. I can learn from him. Kobe Bryant prepares better than anybody. I can learn from him. So every meeting that we had with that team, LeBron James sat right next to Jason Kidd. And they would go and shoot. They would do extra work. All of them did extra work at night. And because he could learn from him. And so when you have that talent, get it to work with one another. They'll do things that you can't do. And then Kobe Bryant taught all of them how to prepare. One night, it's Las Vegas, so we weren't in competition yet, we're just starting. And it's 5 o'clock in the morning, this is a true story. And the elevator comes down, and a bunch of our guys were just coming in at 5 in the morning, which is early for some of them, And the elevator opens, and it's Kobe in his workout gear. He was going down to work out. And guys, 2 days later, 4 guys were working out at that time. As we increased, everybody was working out at that time. That's what happens. You make each other better. The most talented cannot be gifted stuff, or they can't be trust fund babies, or and if they're your hardest workers, they set a standard that is so good for everybody. Oh, you're willing to do that? You're willing to die for a loose ball? You bet your butt I am. I'll die for it too. I get chills thinking about I want to coach a team now. Because there's nothing like getting a group of people to play as one, where they all own it. It's family. Let's go, man. I still work at Duke. I have finagled a lifetime contract. Same office, what the heck. And I also work for the National Basketball Association, the NBA, for 3 years. I'm a special advisor to the commissioner, Adam Silver. I do a lot of speaking, but I'm a professor at our Fuqua School of Business. I've been a professor there for over 25 years. I don't teach a class because that means I have to show up every week. But I lecture or do events. But I study leadership. Can I tell them about
The four A's, yes.
3 A's?
And the four, yes.
Okay,
No.
so this is, just shut the hell up for a second. See, he's starting to get too comfortable. No, I got on his butt for a while and he was a little jittery. Now we're acting like friends and he's going to pull that stuff on.
Go ahead. I'll be quiet.
So I call it the 3 A's of leadership, okay? The first A is agility. As a leader, if you're a football quarterback, you call a play in a huddle, you come to the line and you see the defense is set up differently, you call an audible. As a leader, the agility is to make reads. Even though you have a plan, make reads where you show agility. The second A is adaptability. The thing that I adapted to the most was communication. You know, God's been great to me with beautiful wife, girls, 10 grandkids, championships, except one area. I kept getting older and the guys I coached stayed the same age. How the hell did that happen? I don't know. And so I didn't adapt values, but I adapted how I taught the values 15 to 20 times in communication. Like, people change. Even if you have the same people on your team, they change year to year. Yeah, somebody has died, somebody has a baby, somebody's gotten married, somebody's, right? And then you do have new people all the time, especially if you're growing, okay? And so I had to, it's on you as a leader to get your message across. Well, they don't understand. Well, then make them understand. You know, do things where you make them understand. Another thing with communication is the leader doesn't have, you can grow tired of one voice, okay? But what's the voice of your team? So John Shire, who's now the coach, worked for me, played for me, and whatever. He was my associate head coach. We'd have a team meeting sometimes and we'd prepare. I'd say, John, you take the meeting. And we'd sit in the theater and we'd be right here and I'd be in the back, okay? And he would say something and I'd say, John, let me add one thing. When I did that, everyone would turn. They would remember those 2 or 3 things more than if I was up there. Sometimes I would have a player speak. And so you're getting the voice of everyone there. There are 2 force multiplier questions that a leader can ask his or her team. One, we're getting ready to embark on something. What's your first name? Agnes, beautiful. And a lot better than Sebastian. Yeah. Did you lose a bet and had to name him that?
It's the crab in The Little Mermaid. It's a nice movie.
But what if I said, Agnes, like, we're about to do something. What do you think about what we're doing? Or we've already embarked on it, and I said, how do you feel about it? Hits you different, doesn't it? It boom, 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 okay? And what if we establish a relationship where you just do that without me asking? Wow, pretty good. Really, really good. Adaptability, okay? The third A is not alive and well. It's called accountability. Everyone thinks accountability is negative. Accountability is just telling the truth. And it can be a positive, like, what a great shirt. No, beautiful shirt. Slacks, terrific. You know, your shoes suck. You know, like, no, they don't.
They're nice.
No, I'm just, settle down. If they don't, as an example. In other words, you have to, if something is not right, you have to take care of it, or else you keep living with not right. But if you only say something negative all the time, that's not good. So if you say positive along with negative, it works, okay? The toughest accountability I ever had was with Kobe Bryant. We're in Shanghai, last exhibition game before we go to Beijing. And we have a tight group. I mean, it's just really tight. And during the game, he started taking not US shots, he started taking Laker shots. They were bad shots. And the guys know he's not supposed to take those because they're not doing it either. They're not taking Cavalier shots or Knicks shots. They're taking US shots. So there's a free throw in the first half, and LeBron James walks in front of me, and he looks at me like, what are you going to do? He didn't say it, but he did say it. And I said, don't do anything, man. I'll take care of it. Then, big ego, they're going to look at you 2 or 3 times. He looks again. I said, I'll take care of it. I stay up all night with my staff. And Kobe Bryant's the best player in the world at that time. I'm going to have to hold him accountable. So we stay up all night, take all of his shots. Next morning comes, I see Kobe. I said, Kobe, I need to speak to you. He said, of course. So we go in. I said, if you take those shots, you took bad shots yesterday, man. And we showed him the shots. If you take those shots, we're not going to win the gold, silver, or bronze. We are not going to have a team. And then there's that moment. You're Kobe Bryant right now, okay? Where you look him in the eye, and he's got beautiful, I mean, don't go like him and go crazy now when I'm complimenting you. And I look at him, I said, you understand you cannot take those shots. And he looks at me and he says, I don't know if it's going to be World War III, and he says, okay. So my heart dropped, you know, and I stayed up all night for okay, you know, like, and is there more? And I said, and remember, you can't, he says, Coach, I won't take those shots. Fast forward, 3.5 weeks later, 4 weeks, we're in the toughest game I've ever been associated with. The gold medal game against Spain in Beijing. It is incredibly intense. 8 minutes to go, we're up by 2. Our ball, side out of bounds, our bucket. And I sit down, and I'm starting to draw up a play. And as I'm drawing up the play, this true story, the hand of the guy I held accountable, Kobe, comes on my hand. He said, Coach, we don't need a play. Like, we want this moment. I get chills like crazy thinking about it. This is why we're here, for this moment, not this play. He didn't say that. As a result of him speaking, LeBron says something, Carmelo Anthony says something, and Dwayne Wade says something. And we leave the bench without a play that I think would have worked, you know, but we'll never know. And, but I forgot to tell you, there's a 4th A, okay? We left the bench with a winning attitude, and we made play after play after play. And what I'm saying is, if you're a really good leader, you're not going to draw up all the plays. You know, you let other people make plays for you, for us. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to have a winning attitude that permeates through all 10 of those floors. And you're going to keep advancing, and you're going to keep loving that that's the way you do it. And again, it doesn't cost any money, but it does cost time. Thank you.
I do want to ask you about this before we move into audience Q&A. This question, you know, we had Coach Saban last year, and he said something that, you know, as a great coach, everybody underestimated his ability to recruit. And you had an amazing ability to recruit people. Right. You know, your first winning class at Duke was touted at the time the best recruiting class of the year. Right. And you recruited those guys before you were Coach K that everybody knows you? I mean, you had come, I think you guys lost 2 years in a row.
No, 3 years in a row.
And you went and you changed your strategy. Like you were recruiting 50 players at the time, and you said, I'm just going to go out for the best players.
The best players for me.
How did you do that? How did you convince these amazing players to come and play for you before you had any winning track record? How did you do that? And why was that so important?
Well, it wasn't my good looks, but you develop relationships, and like as you start out small, and you build those relationships with a small group of guys where they trust you, and then when that trust occurs and you're successful, you now created a standard of what you're doing. We looked for 3 things in every one of our players. They have to be really talented. I mean, you won't win without talent. You have to have talent. Second, they have to fit in to Duke. Duke's really a good school. They have to be pretty good students. And the third thing, it's all equal, was character. We would watch a kid in practice, his work ethic. He's always by far the best player. Was he showed empathy for a teammate? If the teammate made a mistake, did he help? Was he joyful when someone else did something? Did he have eye contact with his coach? We even got teacher evaluations to see what kind of friends he had. The main thing, though, all of our guys had mothers. Not all of them had fathers. And I would watch the relationship of the young man with his mom. Was he respectful? Was he already part of a team? Was he already held accountable? And whatever. And so one of the secrets to our success was I recruited talent with character. I did not recruit talented characters, okay? Big difference. And so I enjoyed every day being with these guys, and they already had a foundation to build on, basketball-wise and character-wise. And then I think we did a really good job, and so did Duke University, in helping them get even better.
And they love being with each other as well because they fit the same.
Yeah, and my mom, God bless her, the night before I went to high school in inner city Chicago, she said, "Mike, sit down." And I said, "What do you want?" And she says, "Tomorrow you're going to start a different journey. I want to make sure that you're on the right bus." I said, "Ma, I know the city. I can go Damon to Armitage, Armitage to Laramie. I can go Grand Division to Grand to Laramie. I know the city." She says, "That's not the bus I'm talking about." I said, "What bus are you talking about?" She says, "Tomorrow you start driving a bus and only let good people on your bus. And if you get on anyone else's bus, only get on the buses of good people." Again, God bless my mom. And it's the best advice I've ever gotten. And then one last thing. And she said, "Michael, those buses will take you to places that you would never be able to go alone, because you're never going to be able to do it all by yourself. So hang with good people. Get associated with, other buses, West Point's bus, the U.S. Army's bus. I think the Krzyzewski family has a good bus, and that's the best thing. You don't want to do stuff with knuckleheads, and so you seek good people, and not only that, by being with good people, they make you better too. There are things about other people that, oh, I didn't know you could do that well. And so you make each other better, not just business-wise, but people-wise.
Awesome. Guys, we are going to open it up for Q&A. You guys have business questions, leadership questions. We all have teams that we manage here. So take those questions from your head, put them in the mic, And let's start over here.
We actually just started using Rilla at the beginning of this year. We have some great salespeople on our team, and sometimes it's a little difficult to get people who are already great or really good to adapt to something new. So my question for you is, when you're coaching elite athletes who are already successful, how do you convince them to stay coachable and adopt a new skill or system that they may not believe they need?
Well, if they don't, they're not going to continue to be great, because they're driving their bus alone. You know, if you're really that good and you're with a great company, take advantage of it. That means there's talent. I mean, I never had that problem, especially with the US teams. They had respect for everyone, you know, but they also wanted, tell me what you think. Your company will grow only if you share that knowledge. You make each other better. The other thing, the guys on the US teams, they're representing their country, for crying out loud. They were part of something bigger than them. Mm-hmm. And if you're really talented, you should try to find an organization that's bigger than you. That doesn't mean you don't make it big, but it's not you, man. It's us. And once those egos get out of check, then probably they're not going to be with your company.
Correct.
Because they think they're hot tickets, you know, and they go someplace else. Well, somebody can take their place who wants to do all the good things too. You should never compromise the values of your company or what you're doing. Yeah, those are non-negotiable. Yeah, there's other talent out there, and they'll flourish in our organization. And best of luck to you. Yeah, God bless you.
My name is Desiree Whitehead. I am the founder of Howl Marketing. And earlier you spoke about knowing your why. By the graces of God, I learned my why very early, and that's to help businesses use marketing to fuel their growth. Right. And you also said that your players needed both talent, but they needed character. They needed to be good people, and I resonate with that deeply. And in business, we face these exact same challenges, but sometimes the talent and character is there, but the team mindset isn't. And that's something that I've run into as a business owner consistently. So my question, how did you continue to create a culture that people genuinely wanted to be a part of and they were willing to sacrifice for the greater good?
You start with a good person, and you want, no matter how much that person makes or what level that person achieves, that they stay a good person.
Right.
So part of the thing is being truthful with them. If you see them changing, hit it early. And it doesn't have to be public. It can be, can I talk to you? I said, yeah, I love you. I've loved working with you. You're a little bit of a pain in the butt right now. And sometimes they don't even know it.
Right.
Sometimes a person changes because the family, or they don't have a family life. Yeah, and so they don't keep balance. So as you keep scaling and keep getting bigger, my two balance things, I call them F and F, faith and family. I have a great family and I have a good faith. I believe there's somebody definitely better than me. That's helped me keep balance throughout. And family, don't lose sight of your families. Once you see some changes, just don't let it fester.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you
you're
so
welcome.
much.
My name is Vic. I'm from Cincinnati. Question for you, talking about your collegiate championships. Of those, was there an obstacle overarching in that season that you had to overcome with a team, a player, that you're like, man, I'm really glad we got past this, because if we didn't get past it, we may not have gotten to the championship?
Yeah, there's always adversity in every season. When we were fortunate in 91 and 92 to win back-to-back championships, and we had a lot of the same guys. Okay, and so everyone started to say, well, Duke is defending their national championship. And this was in April after we had just won. And I brought our team in, the guys who were coming back next year, and I said, I brought the trophy. And I said, look, no one's taken this away from us. This is ours forever. I never want you to use the word defend. I would like to put a different word there. Let's pursue another national championship. You know, the toughest thing in winning a championship is staying healthy, physically, emotionally. You know, how do you stay healthy? And so I try to know my players really well. And players talk to you in different ways, but they talk to you with how they look, their eyes, how they walk, you know. And if I'm a big body language person, I'm big, and sometimes you can tell by the way they're acting, just to stay on the same page the whole time. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Guys, I want to give a big round of applause to
Thank
Coach K,
Thank you.
American legend. Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Coach.
You know.